well, normally I say the start of the weekend is on Thursday, but I get to take Friday off. So maybe kind of now Wednesday is the start of the weekend as we get you set for South Carolina baseball this coming weekend. Basketball will be back in action. It'll be our first true weekend without football of any kind. At least a couple weeks ago, we had the Reese's Senior Bowl that took place of whatever college or pro game you might have been looking for. But this weekend, we got nothing. So it's officially basketball season, and baseball kicks off on Friday. And a reminder, I got a feeling by now you have heard the scoop, but baseball has moved up their Sunday game to Friday. There will be a doubleheader on Friday now. 1 o'clock will be the start time over at Founders Park for the Gamecocks and Northern Kentucky. That'll be followed 45 minutes later by technically Game 3, if you want to be completely technical about it, but Game 2, and then they will play Game 3 on Saturday. You can read all about it on Gamecocks online, but we will be out at Village Idiot. So you can go see Chris and Wes and Tyler and Jack and the whole gang from 9 to 12. I might even make an appearance there later, but from 9 to about 12:40 on Friday, we'll be hanging out over there with Brian Glenn at Village Idiot. I was just talking to Wes Mitchell about the Buffalo Chicken Pizza. I think he's actually heading there right now to maybe get himself a pre-slice, but because I heard him and Chris talking lunch as they were walking out the door. But we will be there on Friday and want to see you. Hope you come out and hang out with us. Weather's supposed to be nice, so we get you set for baseball season, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. Coming up at 2:15. He's an oldie, but he's a goodie. He's a lot of fun. Trey Dyson will join me. Trey back in town now, and we'll catch up with him. He was out at the scrimmage yesterday and has been taking in some of the action and is prepared to talk about it. So Trey Dyson joins us this afternoon coming up at 2:15 today to talk Gamecock baseball. And yesterday, Tyler put on the Twitter page the poll question of, are you excited for South Carolina baseball? And I thought that was the right way to phrase it. Are you excited? Because I think a lot of you are interested in the season. I think a lot of you want to see what's going to happen. But I don't know if excited is the right word to use. And when all was said and done with that poll, sure enough, it was a pretty overwhelming majority of the vote there that had y'all not, or the voters not being excited for the upcoming baseball season. And we get that. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. Today, we'll get into a little bit of what is an expectation for this team. Now, you can expect bad things. You can expect bad things. You can, it's your will, it's your right to go ahead and give up on the team, to say that, no, they're not going to be any good. I don't like the Paul Maneri experiment. This is not working. But we've put a poll question up. What do you think is fair expectation for the baseball team today? To host a regional, to just finish in the top half of the SEC, or just to make the NCAA tournament? Now, the standard at the University of South Carolina, without question, is to host a regional. I mean, I think we talked about it yesterday, and Tyler, not from really being around here now, talk about Tyler's age a little bit, Tyler not as familiar with the glory days of South Carolina baseball, which are growing farther and farther and farther in the rearview mirror. I mean, you're talking about one of my kids wasn't even born during the great runs of Ray Tanner. It's tough to say out loud. But the expectation for South Carolina baseball is really very simple. It's at the bare minimum to host a regional. Founders Park was not built for regular season games. It was built to host regionals and to host super regionals and to be a showcase point. So my question would be, kind of building off of this poll question, but going back to this poll question, my question would be, do you hold South Carolina to that standard this year? Doesn't matter who the pitchers are, what the injury situation is, who the coach. Is that the basic baseline standard of South Carolina baseball? And if you say yes, I totally understand, and I agree with you. Remember, we've said this, Mark Kingston's final year, this team was in a regional. You know, it's not like this was some kind of rebuild that Paul Maneri took over and you had to completely tear the whole thing down and rebuild it. What happened last year was unacceptable on so many levels. And I think Paul Maneri would tell you that. He's a national championship winning coach. He gets it. But truth be told, last year was completely unacceptable because that's not even close to where that team was. Even if they lost some guys, I'll just point to a Cole Messina. Even if they lost some guys, that's not where that team should have been. And they started out well and then got swept by Clemson. So the poll question today, if you want to weigh in, 803-404-6100. What is a fair expectation? Now, you can add your own. You can add your own if you want to call in or if you want to text in, 803-404-6100. Again, on the poll question we put up, though, the three options are to host a regional, to finish in the top half of the SEC, or just to make the NCAA tournament. My fair, I'm not saying it's right, but my fair expectation is to make the NCAA tournament. I don't know what this team is, and I don't think anybody knows what this team is. When you bring John Whittle on, who's the guru of South Carolina baseball, and you ask him, and he doesn't really know how to describe this team or what they're going to be getting, and that's pre-Jake McCoy injury, you kind of go, oh, boy, this is going to be a roller coaster of a season. Yesterday, Tyler laid out the schedule for South Carolina. And I really, the more I thought about it after the show, the more it just kind of tells me where South Carolina baseball has kind of fallen to. And it is sad. But it's kind of fallen to because there's a lot of you talk about excitement. If you were to go back and 15 years ago and to have this schedule with a series against number 2, LSU, by the way, this year, a series against number 3, Texas, a series against number for current preseason, Mississippi State, number 4. All these great series that South Carolina has. Baseball is going to be, if South Carolina is successful and they're winning, baseball is going to be so much fun because every weekend, once you get to SEC play, really even the Clemson series, Clemson's ranked, but every weekend is almost a massive showdown. And that is a blast to cover. It's a blast to watch. It's a blast to be a part of. But when you're not doing well, when you get beat the way South Carolina got beat last year and have one of the worst years ever for South Carolina in SEC baseball, you kind of look at that schedule with a little more trepidation this year. You kind of go, oh, how are we going to handle this? No longer South Carolina the hunter, the team getting, or what is it? They're the hunter. How does that work? Talked myself right into a pickle on that one, didn't I? Is that right, Dave? The good team is the hunter. They're the huntee.
Well, if they're up top, then someone's hunting them.
That's okay. So if the lower team is the hunter.
Yeah.
Lower team is okay. So we're the hunter now. That's right,
yeah.
Right? Okay. Whew. Didn't prep myself for that conversation there. We got a little carried away in the opening segment. Could be a long show. But no, I mean, with the baseball team, it's different. It's different. And again, in years past, a lot of you would have looked at that schedule. LSU, Texas, Mississippi State, Arkansas, North Carolina, the single night game against North Carolina, midweek game. Florida, Georgia's 15th, Kentucky's 18th, Clemson's 19, and Vandy's 23. And again, we'd all be like, man, this is going to be a blast. And that's not where South Carolina baseball is. We're the hunter now. We're not the one being stalked is how Dave and I have come to do that. So we'll talk a good bit about that today. Again, Trey Dyson said to join us. Chris Deering will join us coming up in the 1 o'clock hour. Normally he's with us on Friday, but obviously Friday we will not have a show due to South Carolina baseball. So Chris Deering will go ahead and join us, and we got a lot of news and high school information to get to. He may end up taking up 2 segments today because we've got some high school football information across the state that we need to get to. Some new head coaches being hired, especially down in Florence. You got a couple head coaches being hired down there, and we'll get to that. So a lot to do there today. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. Coming up next, we'll get into a little college football. I'll speak to what happened yesterday for the University of South Carolina, an arrest, but we'll talk more about some massive hearings coming up for college football. You just had the Charles Bediako situation in basketball. Well, there's 2 big ones. Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar and Mississippi quarterback Trinidad Chambliss have got big NCAA eligibility hearings coming up this week, tomorrow and Friday. We'll talk about that, what it means for the NCAA, and kind of what it means for college football next year when we come back. You're listening to The Halftime Show. It is 12:15, but in about 13 seconds, it'll be 12:16 on your rainy Wednesday afternoon. Bill Gunner, Captain Dave Adair will carry you through. Again, coming up in about an hour, Chris Deering will join us, and we'll get into some high school discussion. But right now, a little topic of college football and a lot of things happening. Let's start with the University of South Carolina, where yesterday you get the bad news. The stuff that you don't want. Devontae Miles, defensive tackle, a guy that we actually brought up on this program yesterday due to some weight gain, good positive weight gain. And not long after that, Miles was stopped while driving in an area over by Bluff Road and South Stadium Road near 1 o'clock. The traffic stop was initiated after he was spotted with an improper display of a window tag and a window tint violation. Unfortunately, the Richland County Sheriff's Department decided to search the car because they smelled marijuana, and they found 20 individual bags of a green plant material consistent with marijuana. Also seized a firearm. I'm going to pull out my assume hat and say that this is the end of Devontae Miles for the University of South Carolina. We'll see how Shane Beamer handles this. Right now, obviously, what you've got here is a situation that South Carolina has been very good, by the way, in terms of not having issues like this. And that is something that you go back, and I kind of remember the end of the Lou Holtz era where you had a lot of things going on inside of that locker room. Preston Thorns talked about it. You can hear him talk about it in the mornings. And the culture had really slidden. It had really changed, and it really changed just in that 6-year period because basically from what I know in 98, 99 as well, it wasn't a very good culture either in the final years of Brad Scott, but Lou Holtz was able to come in and kind of get that corrected, and you were able to clean up a lot of things. Unfortunately, by the end of his tenure, things had kind of gone back downhill, and then Steve Spurrier was really able to corral that and run a very clean program, and you didn't see, occasionally you'd have a situation pop up. Obviously, there was the Wesley Saunders, Whitney Gate situation, and you get a here and a there, but by and large, South Carolina's done a good job of running a clean program, and this is not something that you really want on your record, both obviously as a player, but then definitely as a coach. You don't want to be known for that. Now, Kirby Smart, we all know, runs basically some kind of rogue program over there at Georgia, but he wins national titles, right? So he kind of gets a pass, at least from the Georgia faithful, of like, oh, our players don't know how to drive the speed limit and appear to be doing illegal things off the field. But you keep winning. Now that he hasn't won in a little bit, he's now lost 2 playoff games that some people think he should have lost. The last year to Notre Dame, this year to Mississippi. But the bottom line is that Kirby Smart kind of gets a pass. You can't be losing and having these situations, but we'll see what happens with Devontae Miles, who is now would be a redshirt senior and really a body, if you will, a depth piece on that defensive line. This past season, he had 33 total tackles, 13 solo stops, 2.5 for a loss and a sack. It's actually for his career. This past season, he had 6 total tackles, 3 solo stops, 1 for a loss and a half a sack for the Gamecocks. So I will say more than likely you're not losing a key piece here to your defensive line. You are losing a depth piece. And one thing we now know more important than ever in college football is having depth and being able to rotate your defensive lineman. And having a guy who had experience, this isn't a great thing, mind you, but that's likely the direction that's going to go, and we'll see. And then you just hope you move on and it's an isolated incident and that South Carolina is able to keep, again, what has been for the better part of 26 years, this century, this century, a very clean program with a minor hiccup here and a minor hiccup there, and you hope that's exactly what this is. But a little bit of news yesterday. More news today. This is more on the positive side. 4 South Carolina Gamecocks invited to the NFL Combine, and I don't know if you're paying attention kind of to some of the mock drafts that are starting to come out, but Brandon Cisse is shooting up mock drafts. I believe we mentioned yesterday The Athletic had a mock draft come out, and he was listed at 20 to the Dallas Cowboys. Another mock draft came out today, and Field Yates had him at 18 to the Minnesota Vikings. So Brandon Cisse, keep an eye on him. There's a lot of people who are very interested in seeing him run at the combine. And from what I was reading yesterday on The Athletic, if he goes out and posts a 4.3, as is expected, there's a good chance that he shoots up even higher, maybe even into the top 15 of the NFL draft. So nothing wrong with that. You get the negative news with Devontae Miles, but if you get a guy like Brandon Cisse drafted, claim him. Yeah, I know he was at NC State just a little bit, but we claim him, and you say, yeah, that's a Torian Gray guy. If it wasn't for Torian Gray, he wouldn't be doing that. 3 other players from South Carolina landing invites to the NFL Combine. Rasul Faison. Be interested to see what he does. I don't know. Obviously, I'm going to talk eligibility here in just a second with Trinidad Chambliss and Joey Aguilar, but how much did the whole situation for Rasul Faison with his eligibility and not really being able to get a clear answer until late in fall camp affect him this year? Because it just felt like we never got to see who he truly was. Now, part of that's on the offensive line. The offensive line, obviously, we know the struggles there. But it just, for all the hype, for the free Sewell, for all the Twitter hashtags and everything, it didn't feel like he lived up to what he was supposed to be. But you got to wonder mentally how much going through that eligibility situation affected him, given that it really should have been resolved a year ago, and instead it took all the way to August. And then Shane Beamer, who I think said all the right things, even though you knew he was getting frustrated with the situation. How much did it affect game planning and getting ready for certain portions of the season? Not that you didn't know he was eligible and ready, but that you'd already lost basically spring ball and fall camp and not being able to get him ready maybe in the manner that you would have. So I'll be interested to hear more about how he does at the NFL Combine. This is a guy that a lot of people thought he could have left school in August last year, declared for the NFL, and latched onto a team last year. So it'll be interesting to see him. Defensive lineman Nick Barrett, really great story, obviously, for Nick coming up, sticking with South Carolina, one of Shane Beamer's, I believe, original recruits when Shane got to the University of South Carolina. I believe he was one of the Fad 7, if you will, that arrived on campus. And Nick Barrett, this past season, turning in a solid year, 42 tackles, 27 solo stops this past season, 2 sacks and a pass breakup. His best games were against Vanderbilt and Alabama and Missouri. He had 6 stops against Missouri, 5 against Vanderbilt and Alabama. So a really good year for him. You hope maybe to see him drafted in the late rounds. And again, maybe if he goes and runs really, really well at the NFL Combine, he can get himself up into going in the 6th, maybe the 5th round with his size. Also, the other guy, I mentioned Brandon Cisse, the other defensive back, no surprise here, Jalen Kilgore, who declared after his junior season. Kilgore, I remember talking to J.C. Sherbert about Kilgore in the recruiting process, and we discussed how exactly Kilgore was flying under the radar. And it just really was one of those stories, kind of like Nick Eamon-Worry, of South Carolina getting in on a guy early, being able to really kind of keep his recruitment. Look, anytime Brent Venables wants a guy, and Brent Venables in Oklahoma really wanted Jalen Kilgore, to me, that's a good sign. And South Carolina was able to get Jalen Kilgore out of Georgia. He comes here, he makes an immediate impact, turned into one of the better players that the Gamecocks have had come through the secondary, in the last 30 years. And he's going to go to the NFL and do some really good things. In his 3 years, in Kilgore's 3 years, 178 total tackles, 21 pass breakups, 8 interceptions, and that was playing in 36 games. This past season, 54 tackles and 2 interceptions. So there's your 4 guys going to the NFL Combine for the University of South Carolina: Rasul Faison, Nick Barrett, Jalen Kilgore, and again, Brandon Cisse, who expected to run, and that'll be something that when that time comes and that day comes, we'll keep a close eye on. And if he goes out and runs a 4.3, keep an eye on Cisse, maybe moving into the top 15 again, as The Athletic had him as a top 20 draft pick going to the Dallas Cowboys in their most recent mock draft, and Field Yates' mock draft today had him going 18th to the Vikings. So there's a little South Carolina news and notes on football for you right there. Circling back to big picture, one of the teams South Carolina will play is Tennessee this year, and Tennessee has some really nice quarterback prospects, but maybe the guy they like back is their experienced guy in Joey Aguilar. And Joey Aguilar and Trinidad Chambliss both have NCAA eligibility hearings coming up this week. Joey Aguilar, both in separate courts, by the way, both separate hearings. I should be clear on that. But it'll be on whether they are allowed to play the 2026 season. Chambliss is really interesting because if this guy gets eligibility, He's a Heisman Trophy candidate, and his is set for tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. So when we come on air, we'll know if a Heisman Trophy candidate is eligible for the football season for Pete Golding in Mississippi. If a preliminary injunction is granted, it would bar the NCAA from stopping Chambliss from participating in 2026 until the case is fully litigated, which could drag out and allow him to play this season. So, this is the downside. This is what I've talked about. The product on the field is great. The product on the field is great. This was one of the most fun years I've had watching really football across the board, college football, NFL football. But it's when we get into the off-the-field stuff, the NILs, the transfer portals, and now the eligibility that college football really, really, really loses what it used to be. And for Chambliss, his situation tomorrow in that hearing will center around a respiratory issue that he dealt with as a sophomore in 2022 at Ferris State. He used his red shirt in 2021, his freshman year, but then he missed 2022 while fighting a respiratory issue that doctors later resolved through surgery. So he's got kind of a case, I think, here. I mean, I don't know. This is, again, where, the rule's pretty clear here. Yeah, you missed a year. But again, this isn't like he just didn't play. He was fighting a respiratory issue that they had to have. They ended up doing surgery and removing his tonsils, and that was the reason he missed 2022 and lost a year of eligibility. Joey Aguilar, on the other hand, is taking the Diego Pavia route. He's arguing that his playing junior college ball should not count toward NCAA eligibility. That I don't like. Look, it's not the NCAA's fault you couldn't get qualified to go to junior college out of high school. But Joey Aguilar is 24 years old. He spent 7 years in college, 3 at NCAA member schools. The NCAA, of course, allows players to compete for 4 seasons within 5 years. But he will have his hearing tomorrow. Now, Tennessee has a couple nice young quarterbacks coming up that is going to be in a battle there in the spring and the fall. And we get Tennessee. South Carolina gets Tennessee in October. So it is something to keep an eye on with his eligibility. By the way, Joey Aguilar's hearing is set for Friday in a Knoxville County court. So you've got that going on as well. But just something to keep an eye on. And 2 of them, again, entirely different situations. With Trinidad Chambliss maybe having more of a case because of an illness, whereas Joey Aguilar's is really, hey, I had to go to junior college because nobody wanted me and I couldn't get qualified. Those years shouldn't count against me. And I don't think that that's how it should work out. I think that he should be done with college ball and move on. I think Trinidad Chambliss should get his 1 year of eligibility back because it's kind of like a medical red shirt. You've got medical information there. There was surgery that had to be had. All that kind of fits in with kind of everything that getting a medical red shirt should be. 803-404-6100. We'll come back and move on. You're listening to The Halftime Show. got our Winter Olympics going on. They're doing the I don't know what event it's the one where it's the long range skiing. Dave, have you seen the long range skiing? Like they're kind of like.
You mean like cross country skiing?
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Maybe I'm not. This is where the Winter Olympics. This is why I love the Winter Olympics, because I don't know really what's going on.
They used to have one of those machines at the gym. It was a Nordic track cross country skier.
Okay.
I loved that thing.
Okay.
And it would really do the workout on you, because if you've ever done that on skis in the snow, it will burn your legs quickly.
Well, I was watching today before I came. They had the again. I'm going to sound like an idiot, but I was watching, but I guess I wasn't paying close enough attention to what the actual events were. But that's really kind of how it goes with the Olympics the majority of the time, right? Like, the figure skating, the curling, the hockey, but then you get into some of these obscure events. For example, the cross-country skiing that then involves rifle shooting.
Oh, yeah.
I forget the actual name of that. But, they had the women on earlier today before I came. And, as you were just talking about, these women are, getting across the finish line and are, literally falling onto their hands and knees trying to catch their breath from the exercise that they just put forth.
It's a heck of a workout, I can tell you that.
Yeah, we'll keep you updated on the Olympics as we go through. I know as I was leaving, the men's hockey was getting underway, so we've got that coming up for us, and it should be a lot of fun. They were really promoting the fact that the NHL is back in the Olympics, and that is really cool. It'd be a lot of fun, but I'm kind of looking forward to that. I watched a little bit last night, and of course, anytime you can put the luge back on with somebody just getting on a board and just hurling down the ice at whatever, 70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour, feet first, just holding on for dear. That board is basically using you for security. I'm all in. Count me in on that. And earlier today, they also had the women's moguls, which is the ski event where they jump off a little ramp and they're going down. I don't know how to describe it. You said, again, this is actually why I like the Winter Olympics, because I don't know what I'm watching. It's a whole bunch of events, and I'm just like, well, that's really cool. I can't wrap my mind around how that works, or even how somebody gets to be that good in that particular profession. So, for example, curling. Do you just go to your local curling club and start doing curling, Dave? Is that how it works? You're just up north, and you're like, I'm going to go on the weekends, and then all of a sudden you're an Olympian?
I don't know. Is it like if you're someone that sweeps the floor, or are you destined to be a great person that does that sweeping thing?
Good question, too. I don't know. This is why I'm trying to tell you. The Winter Olympics, to me, are great. They're phenomenal.
The Winter Olympics. It's fantastic.
I know I'm in the minority on this. I would take the Winter Olympics over the Summer Olympics, because I understand the Summer Olympics a little bit. I get basketball. I actually understand the gymnastics aspect of it. I get the swimming. I've done swimming and diving. I've jumped into the lake and I've jumped into a pool. I know what that's like.
Yeah, I like swimming and diving. That's really good.
There you go. All right, 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in on that. Football in the previous segment. Getting back to a little bit of baseball talk and our question of the day on the 107.5 The Game Twitter page. What is a fair expectation? Now, this is kind of building off of yesterday's poll, in which we asked you, are you excited for South Carolina baseball? To which the resounding answer was no. Going back real quick here to the final results of that poll yesterday, but it was about 65% the last I saw for the poll of being no, that people were not excited about the upcoming season. And again, the reason for that is we don't know what we're going to get. We have no real clue what this team is going to actually look like. But today's poll question is out, and it is, what do you think is a fair expectation for the baseball team? Now, again, this is the poll question, and I'm not, you can vary. You can be a little different if you want, if you're going to call or text in. On our poll, it says host regional, finish in the top half of the SEC, or just make the NCAA tournament. If I'm going on that, if I'm going just on that, to me, Bill Gunner, not speaking for Dave or Tyler or anybody else here, it's just make the NCAA tournament. Just get back. Now, That's below the standard for South Carolina baseball. South Carolina baseball standards, and we got Trey Dyson coming up at 2:15 today, and he's part of this standard. He's part of the legacy. And that legacy is that South Carolina hosts regionals. And then if you host a super regional, that's icing on the cake there. You've done your part. But hosting a regional for the University of South Carolina is the bare minimum. But this year, when we break it down and say a fair expectation with this schedule, with the unknown of this roster, now factoring in the injuries, I'll just say, hey, get to the NCAA tournament. That'll be a start. Because there's a lot of people who are projecting them to be in the bottom half of the league. 14th out of 16th, 15th out of 16th. So we'll kind of have to see how that all plays out for them in terms of what the team looks like. But to me, it's perfectly acceptable to hold South Carolina baseball without knowing to some form of a standard this year. And that standard for me is going to be, hey, just get to the NCAA tournament. If you can do that, good job. Good job. That's a step in the right direction. And then if they don't get to the NCAA tournament, we're having the same conversation, I think, that we're currently having about basketball. A couple of y'all are weighing in. Keith says super regional, not regional. Jeff goes with yes. I hold them to that standard every year. I can understand injuries impacting the team, but postseason should always be expected. Another texter weighs in and says, I expect a top 8 national seed. Okay, that's a lot there. But the bottom line is, it's that South Carolina baseball has set a standard. Trent weighs in. I refuse to lower my expectations for South Carolina baseball. We host playoff baseball and push for Omaha. Failure to perform last year changes nothing. And I'm with you. I'm not – y'all are right. I also just – with this particular team, and I think the key word here is fair. But I understand where all of y'all are coming from because, again, the bare minimum of this university's baseball program is hosting a regional. That has been set in stone since I've been alive and for well over 50 years. And even though it hasn't lived up to it the last 8-9 years, that's still the standard and should be the standard. All the pieces are in place over there at Founders Park. And you have a national championship winning head coach who knows what he's doing. You don't have a first-timer. You don't have somebody who's brand new at this trying to navigate his way around the league. You've got a veteran coaching staff. You've got veteran players. South Carolina is the number 2 team, I think, when it comes to, I believe, I might be miswording this, but they're the number 2 team when it comes back in terms of production coming back. Now, a lot of that's from the transfer portal, but they are the number 2 team in the country in terms of player production that has come back to college. So you have an experienced team. You have an experienced coach. You have everything there that should lead you to being competitive. Once you're competitive, after that, all right, we'll figure it out from there. But you look at that schedule, and it's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully, for South Carolina. But again, coming back to where I'm at on it, if they can get to the postseason, given the schedule, given some of the unknown, I think that's a good start. The standard still should be hosting a regional. We'll see if they can do that. 803-404-6100. We'll come back, wrap up hour number 1. It is the halftime show. Old Dave got us our answer. What was the biathlon?
It's, let me pronounce it correctly, biathlon. I tend to add an extra syllable in there, but it's biathlon.
Okay.
Started in Scandinavia, apparently.
All right.
Not surprisingly. And it's pretty intense, man. They have women and men that do it. And there's, let's see, the longest one for the men is 20 kilometers. Whew. 20 kilometers.
I don't know what that is. That metric system doesn't. What is that? What is 20 kilometers?
Something. Several miles, I think. And the women are 15. And you have to shoot lying down and standing up. And if you miss the target, there's a penalty. A whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah. No, there's the girls that I saw today were, I mean, they're world-class athletes. They're in incredible shape. Then whatever it is they got to do, ski, shoot, ski, whatever, and they were crossing the finish line. And at first I just thought it was one girl that was happy to cross and achieve a lifetime goal of competing in the Olympics. And then every girl behind her was doing the exact same thing. And they showed one girl on the ground, and you could, see her stomach and the way it was going in and out, breathing. And she's breathing so heavy. I was like, my goodness, what kind of workout? I was like, I barely walk down from my bedroom to the kitchen right now in my current state without getting winded. I can't imagine doing what they're doing and the training that you have to do to be able to handle that kind of activity in the Olympics.
15 kilometers, that's the women one, is just under 10 miles.
It's a long way.
Oh,
it's a long way. So that's the biathlon.
Biathlon.
All right, we'll keep you updated on that. 803-404-6100. So this came out yesterday, short segment. So I'll discuss this now, and I'm interested to hear if y'all are interested or not. Charlie Woods, son of Tiger Woods, obviously, commits to Florida State to play golf, and this poor kid, the kid's incredible at golf. If you've kind of not been following it, this young man has taken up dad's pastime, and he's really good. And it's kind of almost scary to watch because you almost worry about him chasing some kind of legacy or what. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about watching Charlie Woods grow up and him becoming so good at golf in the manner that he has. And I'm curious to see because, truthfully, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong, give me somebody else. I don't know if we've ever seen, how do I want to phrase this, an elite, one of the game's best, have a son that could be one of the game's best. Truly be one of the game's best. And I don't mean coaching, I mean playing. In my mind, instantly I go to Michael Jordan and the pressure that went on his sons. I think one of his sons went to Central Florida, never panned out. I think the other one, the pressure was too much and didn't make it in basketball. LeBron James, obviously Bronny's, whatever he's doing. But, and I'm trying to, you can go through other sons and characters. I mean, obviously, I don't know, was Bobby Bonds, I know he was good, but he wasn't Tiger Woods great, if you will. And then obviously Barry came along. King Griffey Sr. was really good, but he wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know King Griffey Sr. and Bobby Bonds like that. Maybe y'all can weigh in on that. And then seeing their sons come up, Barry and King Griffey Jr. But this is really just interesting to me. And Charlie Woods is going to be part of the 2027 class and play golf at Florida State. And then he'll get onto the PGA Tour. And I don't even know how long it will take for him to stay at Florida State before he goes on the PGA Tour. But it's interesting. And Texter weighs in and says he sees he as King Griffey Jr. No, I meant the scene. I'm talking about the scene. I got to see King Griffey Jr. But my question is more about King Griffey Sr. and Bobby. I think it was Bobby Bonds, how good they were, because again, Tiger was obviously the absolute best, not only in his era, but to ever do it. And now you've got his son coming along who looks like a prodigy, who looks like an absolute phenom. Well, let's be honest. How many people really know when anybody commits anywhere in college golf? We don't even know most of the time when somebody commits to the University of South Carolina, men's or women's. Yet here, this was big news yesterday that Tiger Woods' son, Charlie Woods, has committed. And the pressure that this young man's dealing with, and I don't know how I feel about it. And I don't know, like, there's a part of me that, like, there's a little bit of, like, a ick factor. Like, I don't know if I want to be a part of this. I don't want to watch this young man, like, the pressure that he's going to have to deal with and the responsibility that seems like he's chasing, or the legacy that he's chasing. And by all accounts, he seems like a great kid. Like, I've watched him on the course. If you watch Tiger, you know how Tiger acted. Tiger was one of those great golfers, but we all saw how Tiger acted. By all accounts, Charlie Woods does not act like that. He's not on the course. I haven't seen it. Maybe y'all have. Maybe there's been a tournament here, a tournament there. Obviously, he's still not really into the limelight just yet. But I'm curious to know how people feel about this. If this is like, because you're watching, whether you like golf or not, whether that was a sport that you really got into when it was Tiger and Phil and David Duval and all those guys, or you casually watched because of the greatness of Tiger Woods. Now here comes his son, who's going to get a lot of publicity and is going to be shoved into our face. Hey, here's the next great thing. Here is Charlie Woods, the next great golfer. And again, you get this yesterday where he makes his announcement, decides he's going to commit to Florida State to play college golf, and it's all over the news. So I'm curious because I'm trying to figure out how I'm digesting this information. Like, do I want to see this? Am I buying in? Or am I kind of going, I don't know if I want to watch this young man's life. Like, he just feels like one of those, what was it, Todd Maravich, I believe, like the crazy football players that his dad's pushed him way too far. Not that Tiger's pushed him too far, but there's a little bit here that I'm not sure I feel comfortable watching. But kudos to him. And that'll be awesome, and we'll see exactly what happens and how everything kind of plays out for him moving forward. But Charlie Woods is going to be a name that's going to be kind of shoved down your throat here over the next 4 or 5, 6 years. He'll be officially in college in 2027, but I got to imagine he's going to start being in some PGA events on sponsors exemptions coming up. You can't get Tiger. You may as well get the son Charlie, and I got a feeling we got that coming for us. But how do we consume that? How do we watch that? And is that something that'll kind of bring a little bit of interest to golf for you? 803-404-6100. Chris Deering coming up in the next hour. We got a lot to get to, a lot going on. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Captain David Ayer. It is the Halftime Show. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing, where for over 30 years they've been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. That's right, 30 years of taking care of their customers, whether it's our home or our business, making sure that our operation, again, home or business, is staying dry when you get these rainstorms like today or when we have snow like we did a couple weeks ago. Mid-State Roofing is there for you and for me. So give them a phone call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They want to make sure that your roof is taken care of. You give them a phone call at midnight for all I care. They're going to have an on-call technician ready to get that phone call and ready to help you with a maintenance contract. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. That's how you can reach out to Mid-State Roofing today here in Columbia, Florence or Aiken, Myrtle Beach, Greenville, Spartanburg or Charleston. Mid-State Roofing is there for you. So if you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. 1 o'clock on a Wednesday, kind of one of those slow, rainy Wednesdays that you're just like, all right, let's get through this. Let's get to the back half of the week. We got baseball coming up this weekend. We got basketball. There's not much to say about basketball. Women play LSU. That'll be a monster game. Texter weighed in and asked about Malaysia Fulwali. Did Malaysia Fulwali enter the portal after Tanaya Latson was signed to come to South Carolina? I don't remember the time frame. I feel like Fulwali entered before Latson, but I don't remember the time frame. And then the question was, how does her playing minutes and stats compare? Worth the change. I think maybe her minutes are up like 2 minutes, I think is what I saw. I think the points per game are about the same. This was a couple weeks ago, so things could have changed in the last 2 or 3 weeks. But I believe like in the early part of January through the first couple SEC games, Malaysia Fulwali's minutes and points were relatively the same. Another text weighs in says there's plenty 2027 junior golfers in South Carolina that are ranked higher than Charlie Woods and are better than Charlie Woods. It's just news because his dad is Tiger, the best ever. The Sports Illustrated article that I have here says he is currently ranked 21st. I'm not going to lie to you. I follow football recruiting rankings. Basketball recruiting rankings, I've had to do those. I follow those. I don't follow the AJGA 2027 golf rankings, but according to this is straight from the article, the golf prodigy, talking about Charlie Woods, is currently ranked 21st. Now, so your texter, you're right. 21st in the AJGA rankings for the class of 2027. He'll join top-ranked Miles Russell at Florida State as Russell verbally committed last June. So you are right. He is Charlie Woods is ranked 21st, however we arrive at that, in the American Junior Golf Association rankings across the country for the class of 2027. So he's not a far and away number one as, say, like a LeBron James coming out of high school in basketball or something of that nature. But, again, I'm reading straight off of here, and you can see what I'm talking about, this being shoved down your throat when it says the golf prodigy is currently ranked 21st. So they're using, that's why I use that word. Kevin weighs in and gives us he says watching Dale Earnhardt, I guess he meant Dale Earnhardt grow up kind of under the tutelage and under his son, or under his father, the late, great Dale Earnhardt. And that's a really good one. And thoughts on Dale Earnhardt. This was my pre-racing days, but obviously coming up on obviously the Daytona 500 coming up, where unfortunately Dale Earnhardt lost his life. But we'll have more of that tomorrow. We'll do our checkered flag challenge. We're going to do it different. Tyler has set it up. We're going to do a survivor pool this year. So I'm looking forward to that. We've got it. We've got that lined up for you. Tyler has arranged it to make it a little bit different for our show. So the checkered flag challenge survivor contest. We'll tell you more about that tomorrow when Doug Turnbull joins us.
Climb poles or anything?
For the race?
For the survivor thing?
No climbing of poles. It's not that kind of survivor.
Oh, okay.
Technically, it's not a survivor. Technically, not a survivor pool, if you will, because nobody's being eliminated. It's just I can only pick Tyler. Tyler instantly put a stop to some of my shenanigans. Tyler's very smart. He knows what he's doing.
I don't know. I'd like tiki torches.
Okay. Well, yeah. All right. Yeah. We could do a Survivor Island. Is that how you'd like us to do the segment each week?
Yeah. Break
out a coconut and have a little mini drink, and somebody gets kicked off the island.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So Dave's got his own way of doing the checkered flag challenge. Tyler's got his way. And I'm going to just be in the middle and try and figure out try and win this thing. But, yeah, Tyler figured it out. He is going to limit my Denny Hamlin pick to 1. Tyler's on his A game. Give credit to Tyler. He knows how to make it a fair fight. So we're going to do a survivor contest where 36 races, 36 drivers. You can only take 1 driver per race. So once I use up Denny Hamlin, he's gone. So we'll tell you more about that. Doug Fireball Turnbull joins us tomorrow. We'll catch up. We'll get set for Daytona this weekend, another big part of the weekend. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this afternoon. Some football news, good and bad, for South Carolina. Yesterday, South Carolina defensive lineman Devontae Miles arrested for possession with intent to distribute of a substance that appeared to be marijuana. I'm reading it how they phrased it. And a firearm. We're going to assume that this will be the end of Devontae Miles for the University of South Carolina. The sports aspect of it. What does it mean? South Carolina needed Devontae Miles actually did play better at the very end of the season. He was a bit of a tweener. I think he checked in at 290 pounds on the most recent weight update that we discussed yesterday. So maybe he was trending more toward being an interior guy. So that would have been big because I think South Carolina on the interior has got to have better depth, quality depth, and having Devontae Miles in your program for a year and going through 1 year of Clayton White's system and then adding a little bit of weight would have been a good thing. Was he going to be a starter? No, not unless he magically got a lot better over the 15 spring practices and the fall camp. But he was going to be a quality depth piece for South Carolina, and that's where it hurts. Now, the good news is you got more bodies there on the interior that should be able to fill his spot. And in the grand scheme of things, this should not be a major loss. This should not be a big deal. But certainly for South Carolina, you want to have as many quality deep depth pieces on the defensive line, especially on the interior, because as Preston will tell you, as those big boys will tell you, when that battery life is drained, it's hard to come back. You need those fellas fresh in the fourth quarter. And that's what made South Carolina really stand out during that 9-3 season is you were able to rotate defensive linemen. I mean, somebody like DeAndre Jules, who got injured, we didn't appreciate him enough for him being able to come in and provide snaps in the manner that he did to give Alex Hunley or Tonka Hemingway breathers to keep those guys fresh for the fourth quarter, second half. So that's what Devontae Miles losing him does. It just means losing a depth piece. You're not losing a starter. You're not losing some dude who was expected to produce double-digit sacks, let alone 5 sacks. It'll just be on somebody else to step into his place, and that's fully capable. The other part of that is it's a little hiccup on Shane Beamer's record just because it is your program. Shane's run a very clean program. South Carolina this century has been very, very clean. In my opinion, you've had the hiccup here and the hiccup there where you get a guy get in trouble. But I think by and large, compared to other programs, South Carolina's had a very clean program. You never want something like this happening. But obviously now 97 scholarship people. I had a coach tell me once, it is the worst thing in the world. He said this with 85 scholarship to go to bed, and you got 85 of your sons out there doing maybe what you did in college, and you're just waiting for the phone call from the police to come in. And so it's hard to run a complete program that is staying out of trouble. You can also run a program that's not like, I know I'm taking shots here, but to not run a program like Georgia where you got guys speeding all over the earth and doing who knows what else. But at the University of South Carolina, I think they've done a good job the last few years. Shane's run a very good program. So a little blip on the radar here. 803-404-6100, how you can weigh in. The good news was South Carolina has 4 guys invited to the NFL Combine. Now, headlined by Brandon Cisse, who, as I mentioned in hour number 1, is kind of shooting up draft charts right now. If you haven't paid attention, yesterday, The Athletic put out, or actually I think Monday, put out their 2026 NFL mock draft, one of their first ones. And Brandon Cisse was mocked 20th to the Dallas Cowboys. Today, ESPN and Phil Yates have put out theirs, and he's mocked 18th to the Minnesota Vikings. Cisse is a guy that a lot of people are projecting to go and run at the Combine, and they're saying if he runs a 4.3 or better, you're talking about a guy who could jump into the top 15. So kudos to him, and something that certainly South Carolina gives them another selling point on the recruiting trail. Doesn't get them any victories, of course, but it is something you sell on the recruiting trail of like, hey, that dude played for us. Torian Gray coached that guy. Look at him now being a top 15 pick, especially coming on the heels of Nicky Minwari just winning a Super Bowl and being a second-round pick. So he's number 1. Jalen Kilgore, the number 2 player there, picked for the NFL Combine. Expect him to go. He's got a chance to really move himself up draft charts. I mentioned maybe the most intriguing guy going to the NFL Combine from the University of South Carolina is Rasul Faison, because I don't know if we got to really see who Rasul Faison was last year. The eligibility issue, the way that played out, the uncertainty carrying up almost to the week of the Virginia Tech game. You know, did South Carolina really do what they needed to do? I'm not blaming anybody. I'm just, when you don't know if a guy's going to be eligible or not, you can't really get them maybe the practice time that you want to, but was South Carolina able to prep him for the season? Was he able to prep for the season in the manner that he wanted? I don't know if we got the Rasul Faison that we were excited to get in December. And you look back on it now, and we got the eligibility hearings coming up tomorrow and Friday for Trinidad Chambliss at Mississippi and for Joey Aguilar at Tennessee. And it really just underscores again how poorly Rasul Faison was treated for his situation to drag out for 9 months in the manner that it did. So he can go to the combine, and if he has a really good 40 time, he impresses them with his interviews and does, I don't know, the three-cone drill or whatever else really well. Maybe you see him sneak into the draft a little bit, even with his age. Being 25 years of age, you think, not sure somebody will waste a draft pick on a running back like that, but maybe he can sneak in, or maybe he becomes more of a priority for free agent signing after the draft. So good luck to him. And then the fourth guy for South Carolina, Nick Barrett, which is a great story, hanging around for 5 years at the University of South Carolina, having a very good senior season, developing, doing all the things you want, being a great representative at the university, and now getting a chance to go to the NFL Combine and showcase what he can do to hopefully be drafted or be picked up after the draft and go to a competitive team and have a chance himself to win a Super Bowl, much like the two Gamecocks just did. So a little bit of news there. And again, a reminder, just in case you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours, South Carolina baseball moving up their Sunday game. Now it'll be played Friday at 45 minutes after game one. South Carolina will now play a doubleheader on Friday starting at 1 o'clock. So we will be at Village Idiot from 9 to 12:40. Come by, have a slice of pizza, have a soda or a beverage of your choice. Get ready for some baseball. South Carolina baseball gets going. That'll be on Friday. They'll start at 1 o'clock. Game 2, if you will, is scheduled for 45 minutes after game 1. Technically, if you have tickets to game 3 on Sunday, follow me on this. Try not to sound like a complete moron explaining it to you. If you have tickets for game 3 on Sunday, they are actually good for game 2 on Friday. Game 3 is the one that has essentially been moved. So therefore, the order of the series now is game 1, game 3, game 2. Does that make sense? Are you getting what I'm saying? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? But if you got tickets and you're kind of questioning how it's going to be used, there's your formula for if you got tickets on Saturday for game 2, that's still game 2. You're good. If you got tickets for game 3 on Sunday, plan to go at 45 minutes after game 1 on Friday because that's game 3. You get it. You understand. Y'all are smart people. That's why I appreciate you listening to this program. Speaking of a smart person, Chris Deering, our high school aficionado, a guy who has taken us through we are almost there. It's almost the springtime, and we got a lot to get to. Football coaching changes, basketball and state wrestling championships getting going this weekend. We'll tell you all about it when we come back. You're listening to The Halftime Show. It is 1:18 on a Wednesday. Bill Gunner, Captain Dave Adair, rolling along here. We'll get to Chris Deering in just a second. There's a lot of high school news and notes, again, as we roll along. Normally, Chris is on Friday, but due to the baseball game being moved, we bring him in on a Wednesday. Chris, how you doing this afternoon on a rainy, kind of slow Wednesday afternoon?
I am actually fantastic. Appreciate you having me on a little bit earlier. I know you got baseball all day Friday, and looks like you won't even be on the air much now Friday with the change in the schedule. So happy to come on today.
Yeah, technically, I think I've been given the okay to, because we're going to have Chris and Wes and Tyler and I believe Jack all over there at Village Idiot. So I don't even know if I think Friday I might get an off day, and so I might be able to enjoy it from the comfy refines of my own home and take in the baseball game. I'll stream it and listen over the radio. So, but to go out there to Village Idiot and enjoy some pizza, I can never go wrong with a buffalo chicken slice there and enjoy that. So I would encourage that there. That's my recommendation, Chris.
That's not a bad plan in my opinion.
I might actually do that after the show now that I've talked about. I keep talking about it, making myself hungry. Let's talk about what we actually wanted to have you on. I don't. Is this? Does it feel a little new that we're still having coaching changes into February at the high school football level?
No, I think this is probably pretty normal. I think we actually might see a couple more here in the coming weeks from what I'm hearing. And obviously there's still probably 10 or so jobs still open. Belton Honey Path is still open. AC Floor is still open. That's, a couple of high-profile ones, but you still got some open. There might be some head coaches moving over to fill some of those gaps, and then obviously that'll open up something else. But, we've alluded to this a couple of weeks now about a big-time move here in the state, and it finally happened last week, end of last week, and early this week. Drew Marlowe, the coach at South Florence, that's been in four straight state championships, won two of them. One of them won the first one with Lenore Sellers as his quarterback. He resigned from South Florence and has taken the Sumter job. He's from Sumter. He played at Sumter. So not a surprise that happened. As soon as Sumter came open, there was speculation on that happening, and it finally happened last week. Became official, I think, on Monday, and then South Florence didn't waste any time in naming his replacement. Dutch Fork assistant coach, defensive coordinator, Scott Braswell is now the South Florence head coach. Braswell's first head coaching job. He's done a fantastic job with that Dutch Fork defense. They've won 4 straight state championships. He's been there 5 years. Apparently his dad is a legendary coach in North Carolina. His dad actually coached with Tom Knotts in North Carolina. So big-time hire for South Florence to get somebody like that to replace a Drew Marlowe who was highly successful in his time there. And we'll see if Braswell can keep the streak going with the Bruins and see what they can do. But 2 big-time hires right there, I think, in the state that maybe turn some heads, made people think, but I think Drew Marlowe's going to do a wonderful job at Sumter. Sumter, I was talking to somebody yesterday or Monday, Sumter's been highly successful. They just haven't been able to get over the hump and play for a state championship and win a state championship here in recent years. And maybe what they need is a new look on the sideline and someone that's been there and won state championships. And maybe that's what Drew Marlowe's going to bring back to Sumter.
One other coaching change that was a big one, a former Gamecock, Bennett Swigert, is going to head from Hillcrest to Clover, and give us a little breakdown of that one.
Yeah, talking about one that maybe caught me by surprise was this one. Bennett Swigert has done a really good job at Hillcrest. I think in 3 years he won 28 games. Seemed to have a really good foundation built, and going over to a Clover job that, that's where Perry Woolbright was. He took the North Myrtle Beach position. Maybe not as successful the last few years for Clover. I do think it's a better paying situation for Coach Swigert. I told somebody this as well when Bennett got the job. Bennett Swigert's dad was one of my high school coaches. Remember seeing him run around the field as a youngster. He grew up. He ended up going to Somerville and then to South Carolina, like you mentioned. He's coached on the collegiate level. He's coached in high school. He's been successful. So it'll be interesting to see what Bennett Swigert can do at Clover. Definitely something to watch this year. Clover also is dealing with the situation that they got the new high school just opened very, very close to them, Lake Wiley. So they'll be pulling some kids from Clover. So it'll be interesting to see what type of team that Bennett Swigert can field in his first year with Clover.
Yeah, when you mentioned that, the way you see schools kind of being split and new schools coming in, certainly it changes a lot of things. Shoot, just in the last 25 years since I graduated, I mean, just looking at Lexington alone, with White Knoll opening up, and then River Bluff, not, I guess, relatively, I guess it's been a while now, but and then you just mentioned that. What do you know the name of the new school up there that split? Any chance?
It's Lake Wiley.
Okay.
I don't know what their mascot is.
Gotcha.
I'll have to look that up. But that's where Nick Pelham, he took the head coaching job there, the former White Knoll coach. So they got a local guy here. And so, again, Nick Pelham's going to do a good job there. I have very little doubt. So good coaching in that area now in a short amount of time.
Got just a few minutes left in this segment. We're going to bring you back for some basketball because we haven't talked a lot about it, and regions are wrapping up tomorrow night. But state championship wrestling gets going this weekend as well.
Yeah, actually it's tonight. The snow sort of knocked things off of schedule. They were supposed to have it this past weekend, and so they're doing the dual state championship with the teams tonight. At Lexington High School, you got 5A Division I. This could be Clover versus James Island. Also at Lexington, 3A, it's going to be West Oak against Hanahan. Then over at White Knoll, you got 5A Division II, Fort Mill versus Bluegoff Elgin. I actually will be at that match tonight. And then 2A, also at White Knoll, will be Chesney versus Edisto. And then Gilbert is hosting the 4A state championship, May River versus Travelers Rest. So crowning some state champions tonight. This past weekend, they did do the girls state championship. Like I say, I think second year the girls have been sanctioned as a state championship. Rock Hill won the 5A girls and Chester won 4A. So I expect to see a lot of good action tonight over at White Knoll. That's where, like I said, I'll be there for the Fort Mill, Lugoff Elgin, and I'll definitely catch the end of Chesney and Edisto. And then West Oak is a power. They've won several state championships there in the last couple of years. I think Fort Mill's going for 4 in a row tonight. So a lot of great wrestling in the Lexington County area tonight if people want to get out and support these kids.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. And you mentioned again that was kind of gave a quick rundown. We got just a minute and a half in this segment. Run that back down for anybody that wants to get out. You mentioned Lexington Gilbert is hosting, but give us that schedule again for anybody that was kind of listening but wants to hear it again if they want to get out and catch this state championship.
All right, yeah, so at Lexington at 6 p.m., it's going to be West Oak versus Hanahan for the 3A title. And then Clover and James Island will follow that for the 5A Division I. At Gilbert, they just have one match. It's the 4A championship between May River and Travelers Rest. I'm pretty certain that starts at 6 p.m. And then at White Knoll, they're hosting the 2A battle between Chesney and Edisto at 6 p.m., and that will be followed by 5A Division II, Fort Mill versus Lugoff Elgin.
Chris, let's come back on the other side. Regions are wrapping up for basketball. There's Tyson Balknight's doing an incredible job out at ALA. We'll talk about that. Brett Jones, another one of my former coaches, wraps up another region championship along with the Dutch Fork girls. We'll get into all of that when we come back and let Chris break down what's happening in high school basketball here in the Midlands. You're listening to The Halftime Show. Bill Gunner from Mid-State Roofing, where for over 30 years, Mid-State Roofing has been the leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and it's because of their customer service. That's right. Now, they do a great job. They're going to make sure that your roof is keeping your operation dry and running, that you don't have any leaks, that your business or your home is staying the way you want it to be. But the main thing is that Mid-State Roofing is there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I don't know if you're aware of this. Leaks can't tell time. It just happens. You need a company that's going to be there for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and that's exactly what Mid-State Roofing does. Whether it's midnight, 2 a.m., 4 a.m., whenever, you give them a phone call, you'll speak with an on-call technician who's ready to help get that leak fixed. So give them a phone call, 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. Call Mid-State Roofing today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. .133 on a rainy Wednesday. I think it's still rainy. I guess it's still rainy out there. I hadn't actually looked outside of our curtains, but it was when I came in. And it's just one of those slow, rainy Wednesdays that we got to get through to get us to the weekend and start getting into it. Because as Chris Deering, who's joining us as he does normally each and every Friday, but due to baseball this week, we moved him up to Wednesday. You got state championship wrestling happening tonight, and the end of the high school basketball season also occurring tomorrow night. Chris, region championships to be decided.
Yeah, some's already been decided. Some still have to be decided. But, it's been we just came back from the New Year's break, and, it seems like the season is over before you know it once you get into the new year. And like I said, tonight or this weekend, there are some games on Friday. I do know the bracket should be out Saturday morning. But there's some teams that I think really have a chance to make a lot of noise in the postseason here from the Columbia area. And if you look at that 5A Division I, you got to start with Ridgeview and Dutch Fork. They both wrapped up region titles last night, so they will be a high seed in the playoffs. Latest rankings that came out yesterday, Ridgeview's number 1, Dutch Fork's number 3. You got West Ashley in there between them. Ridgeview and Dutch Fork will be in the upstate. They'll be in there with Burns and Dorman. I think those are really the best 4 teams in the upper state. I think you will see those 4 teams match up with each other and just see who can come out of that fray and, advance to the state championships at the Colonial Life Arena. But like I said, Ridgeview's already won a region title. Dutch Fork's won one. Great Collegiate, they're going to be the number 1 seed in 4A on the boys' side. They got a really good chance to make it all the way to the Colonial Life Arena as well. In 3A, Keenan and Fox Creek are tied at the top of the region. If they both have one more region game remaining, and if they both win, they will play a tiebreaker game on Friday at Newberry. And the funny thing about this Keenan team, they can win a region, be the number 1, number 2 seed, but they will not get any home playoff games. That was part of their sanctions that came down from something that happened over the summer. And they have to go on the road for all their playoff games. Zach Norris, their longtime coach, he's not coached them at all this year. He will not be allowed to coach in the playoffs. So even though there will be a very high seed and have a chance to advance to a state championship, this could be a tough road because they will not get a home game. Every game they play will be on the road. And that's just a little bit different thing than we've ever seen before. And going to break, last time you mentioned the job Tyson Balknight done in American leadership. I mean, just an unbelievable season for those guys. They're tied with Saluda right now for first place. They finish in a tie. They don't have a playoff in that region. American leadership will win the tiebreaker and get a chance to host a couple of first-round games. So, kudos to Tyson Balknight when he's done with a very young program and how they responded. And then I said this from the beginning of the basketball season. I think in Class A, in my opinion anyway, from what I've seen, C.A. Johnson is the team to beat. They have a really, really deep and talented team, and I think they have a chance to win a state championship. And that's not even touching on the girls' side of things. Dutch Fork, they need to win one more game to wrap up the region title and be the number 1 seed. But Lexington, they've been really good this year. They got a chance to make some noise in the playoffs. Blythewood, who won our state championship last year, they could be right back into the mix. The Camden girls, somebody on the fringe of the Midlands, they've lost to South Point earlier this year. They play later this week against South Point, but they're 1 game back, and that's a really talented team. Still, even without, Joyce Edwards was there 2 years ago, but they haven't really fallen off that much. And then the Keenan girls, we've always mentioned Reggie McLean and what he's done with that program. He's got them right back there in the mix of things. So, again, I've always said I think basketball runs through this city, runs through this area, and I see no change this postseason when it gets underway.
Yeah, just glancing, you mentioned it. The 5A D1 boys top 10 is Ridgeview at number 1. In D2, it's Riverside. But then again, you go to the 5A girls, it's Blythewood, and then 5A D2 girls is North Myrtle Beach. But again, you see plenty of Midlands teams in there. Irmo's in at number 7, Chapin's at number 10 there. And let's go back to that. Let's give a little love to the 4A girls as well. You mentioned it, Camden just on the outside of Columbia, but they're number 4 in the 4A girls top 10. Gray Collegiate is number 8 in that group. So you've got really good basketball. I will say Dorman will give a push to Ridgeview, Dutch Fork, and Gray Collegiate there for the state championship this year. And North Augusta's 4A, but obviously North Augusta, I would assume North Augusta and Gray Collegiate are heading for another showdown, a region showdown for a state title this time.
That would not surprise me at all. I've seen North Augusta; they're really good. Actually, I saw them beat Dutch Fork earlier this year, so that's a really talented team. Gray Collegiate's got the best of them twice. It's hard to beat a good team 3 times, so that might be a showdown on the horizon. Might get a couple of rematches here in the playoffs, just to see how things, break out. I can't wait to see the brackets on Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, to see where everything falls. And again, playoffs will start early next week. So when we talk next week, we'll be well into the playoffs and getting ready to have a state championship a couple weeks after that.
Just for those interested, the most of the games will be tomorrow night. There's a couple tonight due to weather previously, but a lot of games, season's wrapping up, and we'll hit on this one real quick. One of the best ones right here in town is the 2 teams we've talked about, Irmo and Dutch Fork. They played a classic. Irmo beat them at the Temple of Doom earlier this year, but they'll wrap up the season 21-3 Dutch Fork against 18-6 Irmo tomorrow night. That one will be at Dutch Fork.
Yeah, but both boys and girls games should be really good tomorrow night. With the Dutch Fork boys winning the region already, you hope they're motivated to keep going and continue to play well. And I think they will. That's a rival game that they don't want to lose to Irmo again. And then the girls game, like I said, there's a lot to play for there. If Dutch Fork wins, they win the region. If not, I think it brings them. Lexington is in second right now in the region, so that might be a tiebreaker situation if Irmo can knock them off. That's could be again. That's matter of fact, I'm thinking about riding over there for that game tomorrow night. I know Friday night we have a game still on Watch 57. Me and Stacy Huff. We'll be over in Sumter to see Westwood play Sumter in the season finale of our broadcast season as well. So looking forward to that game. Both of those teams are in the top 10 as we sit here and talk this morning as well.
And down in Florence tomorrow night, another really good rivalry game, Wilson traveling over to Darlington.
Yeah, I think those teams are tied at the top of that region, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot to play for in that one. I actually saw Wilson last week against Lower Richland, the Josh Leonard kid. Mm-hmm. He went over 1,000 rebounds last week, and he's got over 1,000 points in his career. He's one of the top juniors in the state. We haven't talked about him a lot here on the station, but he's definitely one. If you get a chance to get out and see him, he's one of the top junior players like I said, not just in the country. He's one of the top juniors in the state. He's one of the top juniors in the country. He's highly recruited, really talented kid. So looking forward to see what he can do the rest of this year and into next year.
Yeah, whether it's Lamont Parrish or whomever, that's going to be a priority prospect, Josh Leonard down in Wilson for South Carolina moving forward. Chris, we always appreciate it. Again, reminder, you'll be on the call. What'd you say? You said Westwood and Sumter on Friday night on Watch Fox 57 with Stacey Huff?
That would be correct, sir. That's our season finale. Like I said, it feels like we just started a week or two ago, but that'll be our 6th broadcast, and really enjoyed it. Just like I enjoy you having me on every week. Love to get out and promote these kids and what they're doing and how they're doing it. And it's a good time to be in the gym. And, soon we'll be talking about being out on the baseball and softball diamond and on the soccer fields here soon.
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. Warmer weather. We'll all be happy about that. Chris, take care. Safe travels this weekend. Look forward to catching up in your regular time slot. Now I'm a little confused. I feel like it's Friday. I'm going to have a hard time with that, but appreciate you making time for us.
All right, yep. Y'all have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk next week.
You too. Take care. Chris Deering for our high school highlights of the week there. Again, as we wrap up region play in high school basketball, and again, state championships getting going in high school wrestling tonight over at Lexington, Gilbert, and White Knoll. 803-404-6100. We'll come back. We will wrap up hour number 2 when we do that. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Thank you again to Chris Deering for joining us. We will be joined coming up in the next hour by Trey Dyson, who will hop on to give us a little bit of baseball scoop. We're trying to figure out this team, who they are, how I kind of laugh because I start to see things differently. And football, when you get the transfer portal, we cover football so aggressively, if you will. We cover it. We are so in-depth with football. We know the transfer portal. We know Jacarius Peak. We know Nitro Tuggle. You're like, all right, I know exactly what that guy's going to do for our program. Now I can see Carter Miller is going to be the center on the football team. Know exactly. Basketball, a little less. You kind of like, all right. I kind of got Michi Johnson. Like, okay, let's see what let's see what Kobe Knox can do. All right, I kind of know these guys. Baseball feels like we have no clue. It's not covered the same. So you go out and you do what South Carolina did, and you hit the transfer portal real hard, and you bring in a essentially brand new team for the most part. And it's just kind of like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they are. And so we'll catch up with Trey Dyson, and we'll talk about that and kind of see where he thinks South Carolina is at. I mentioned it, and the correct wording is that South Carolina went out and finished second nationally in the transfer portal in experience added. Now, I don't know what that means, aside from, all right, they're just a bunch of older players. Yeah, is it good? Is it bad? This is from an article by John Whittle on thebigspur.com, and it says the Gamecocks certainly got older. It is worth noting that they are tied with Georgia for the most players, 20, signed in the offseason who have Division I experience. 9 position players on the roster have totaled 2,664 plate appearances. 11 pitchers combined to throw 568 innings. This is from, again, John Whittle. He says, when combining all the numbers, the Gamecock finished only behind Georgia in Division I experience added to the roster in the offseason. But we don't know what that means. We don't know. I assume we think that's a good thing. We're just not sure. But it's going to be really interesting to see and what they look like this weekend. For those wondering, on Gamecock Baseball Twitter, they did say that all 3 games will be played 9-inning games. And I said this yesterday, I think you need to make sure you do that. Go ahead and make sure you play all 9 innings. Get your team as much competition. Don't do that 7-inning thing where you start beating up on somebody. You call the game early. Play all 9 innings. I know maybe somebody's got a Gardner Webb or somebody's got to get home in a midweek game, but South Carolina needs all the innings that they can get. So we'll talk with Trey Dyson coming up about that. And then, of course, we've asked you today, I've asked you, is what is your fair expectation? And I get it. I do. I get that South Carolina baseball, the expectation is very simple. Host a regional. That's the expectation. It always should be. I will say there are certain times in life you go, okay, maybe bump that expectation up. All right, knock it down a little bit. This year probably is that one year you go, all right, just get to the postseason. Let's get this ship turned back around in the right direction and get this thing going back forward. Paul Maneri is a national championship winning baseball coach. He's got a good staff. He's got an experienced staff. You just heard me read off the numbers. He's got an experienced baseball team. Lot of guys who've played a lot of innings on that baseball team. No reason that this team shouldn't be in postseason play. Now, as we go through the season and we watch them and we learn more about them, we can up the ante. But that should be the absolute bare minimum for University of South Carolina baseball this year. And yeah, if you want to say, hey, Bill, the bare minimum is very simple. It's the standard that has been set by the predecessors, and that is hosting a regional. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Baseball is what this university does. I've always said it. Baseball fans here are very smart fans because you've seen great baseball. The last few years, you've been able to go to the ballpark, and I don't question really any of you. Some of you, yes, of course. Have you seen some of your takes? But baseball fans at the University of South Carolina have seen and are accustomed to good baseball. They know what it looks like. So when they see bad baseball, when something doesn't seem right, I give the baseball fans the benefit of the doubt here. I don't know if I can say that for basketball because you haven't seen a lot of good basketball over the last 50 years. But baseball, the fans are very smart. They're very knowledgeable. And if you want to hold that baseball program to a different standard of saying you got to host a regional, I'm not going to argue with you. That should be the standard. That should be the absolute bare minimum, but maybe this year's a little bit different. But you can go and weigh in on that poll. Go to our Twitter account, 1075 The Game, there, and vote for that. Yesterday, we asked you again if you were excited about baseball season. We might have to ask that again because as you get closer, as you get out there and do a little bit of tailgating and you get set for the season, I think that excitement might grow. You might talk yourself into a better than average season than you expected, but I do get the fact that, man, you look at this schedule that South Carolina has, and it's daunting. It's daunting. It'd be daunting if South Carolina was a top 5 team, but they're not. And you're playing number 2, you're playing number 3, you're playing number 4, you're playing in the preseason poll, number 7, number 11 in a one-night game. That's North Carolina. Number 13, number 15, number 18, number 19, number 20. It's a great schedule. Great schedule. It's a lot of fun when you're winning, though. And that's going to be up to South Carolina. We'll talk with Trey Dyson coming up the next hour about that. Get back into some football-related items, eligibility things, some South Carolina football news. You're listening to Bill Gunner and Captain Dave Adair. We might even throw in some Stump the Dave today. I might be a rainy day Stump the Dave contest. I like that. It's the halftime show. Bill Gunner for AAA Heating and Air. Let me tell you something. It is that time of year. I'm pretty sure last night I cut the air on and I heard some clinking and clunking, and that means I got to call the family, AAA Heating and Air, and get them out to the house today. And you might need to do the same. Where right now they're ready to take care of both us as individuals and us as business owners. That's right. Are you a small business owner, maybe a church or another entity that might need a new HVAC system? Well, AAA Heating and Air has exciting news for you. Right now, they offer financing to qualified organizations to aid them in installing a new light commercial HVAC system. You just got to give them a phone call. 803-677-1500. Again, that's 803-677-1500. That's how you can get in touch with AAA Heating and Air. You tell them that I told you to call. They'll hook you up. They'll get you with some financing, get you a brand new heating and air unit in. You'll be good to go. Call AAA Heating and Air today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. 2 o'clock on your Wednesday. I just peeked outside. It's gray and gloomy and just one of them days. One of them days, kind of mid-February days that we kind of roll through and head on into the start of college baseball season. I've been keeping up. Mark Bowman on Twitter is where I've been keeping up with the Atlanta Braves. If they've been getting spring training underway. It looks a lot warmer where they are at. They look a lot happier than where we are currently sitting. But at MLB Bowman is the way you can do that, and he's had a lot of video put out. Walt Weiss speaking today, doesn't know if Joe Jimenez will be available this year. Described he's got a knee ailment that is a very complex injury. Braves already, good grief, man. Spencer Swallenbach going down already, and he'll be out at least starting the season on the 60-day IR. So you got all kinds of issues already taking place with the Braves. And as I asked Tyler yesterday, a big season. You know, they go out, they did all the things that they needed to do, locked up all these contracts, locked up all these guys. They're not here forever. And, you know, that window's closing. Guys aren't getting younger, and some of these guys aren't getting healthier. And so it's a big season, in my opinion. By the way, Spencer Swallenbach met with the media yesterday and said he may have to have arthroscopic surgery to have bone spurs removed. He was asked if he fears he could miss the entire season, and he says he doesn't know what the recovery time would be. So it is something to watch with the Braves. But baseball is almost here. College baseball gets going this weekend. And, again, we'll have complete coverage for you throughout the weekend, as well as basketball and, of course, the women's basketball game as well. So we got a lot going on around here to make sure to tune into and be a part of as we head into the weekend. Again, I have not talked South Carolina basketball. They do take on Alabama this weekend. Charles Bediako is not playing. That probably means you get an angry Nate Oates and Alabama team. The NCAA Tournament Selection Committee has come out and said that they will evaluate Alabama based solely on games that Bediako did not play in. Therefore, that means Alabama's got to kind of continue to win some games and do some things. That'll be an 8:30 game on Saturday night in Tuscaloosa. The Crimson Tide currently 16-7 on the year. And, again, Nate Oates currently still holding the title for biggest villain in the SEC, especially in basketball, I believe, especially with the departure of Bruce Pearl, who I like, by the way. But Nate Oates is definitely the biggest villain. And the way he kind of has handled this situation, the way he really handles about every situation. But we'll see how the game goes on Saturday night. And then, unfortunately, South Carolina's got to follow that up by taking on Florida next Tuesday. And Florida right now, one of the hottest teams in the country. We know what they did to South Carolina recently. Florida actually playing Georgia tonight. Both teams 17-6. That game will be on ESPN2 at 7 o'clock. It should be a really good one. So we'll see where the basketball program goes. And here is why I think you kind of keep an eye on the basketball program. Because I think that tells us how Jeremiah Donati will handle the baseball program. You look at this baseball program, and you look at how this likely goes. You look at the schedule, right? South Carolina should have, truthfully, I know Tyler has got the Service Academy games listed as tricky, Army, Navy, Air Force next weekend. But South Carolina should, again, come out of the gate hot, getting to the Clemson series. Really, no reason not to expect them to sweep Northern Kentucky, to beat Wofford, to beat Gardner-Webb. I don't know enough about Army, Navy, and Air Force to really just chalk those up as W's, but South Carolina should win 2 of 3. Then you get Queens on Wednesday, February 25th. So the Gamecocks should go to the Clemson series with no more than one loss, in my opinion. Baseball happens, you run into a hot pitcher. But with that being said, if things start to go downhill, you lose the Clemson series, and then you get USC Upstate, Charleston Southern, and Princeton before starting SEC play with Florida. That's followed up by Arkansas, then a North Carolina game, Georgia. You get the point. It's a lot of ranked teams. And if things are going downhill, we will look back at basketball and go like, all right, we see what Jeremiah Donati now does with his athletic programs. Because I will be interested to hear him speak and to what he does and the direction that he takes with this basketball program. Right now, they're in a bad place. There's no other way to describe that. Their record against conference And their record in conference and their record against Power 4 or Power High major teams is bad over the last 2 years. It's really bad. And, Lamont Paris, it's on him. It's on him. And I know he's trying everything he can. He's got a staff that's trying everything to get it fixed and to win ball games. But they're constantly talking about attitude and effort and things that you really shouldn't be talking about. So we'll see. I'm interested to follow basketball season really over these next 2-3 weeks as you get some of these tougher games. I mentioned Alabama and Florida. You also got a game against Kentucky in there as well. You get Tennessee in there. You do have the 2 Mississippi schools as well. So those are winnable games, especially Mississippi State at home on the 21st. So we'll see how it all shakes out in terms of basketball, but certainly right now, not a lot to be excited about. And really we're watching because it tells us all about Jeremiah Donati as an athletic director and what he's looking for and his idea of what is competitive and what is not moving forward. 803-404-6100. A couple things from today. South Carolina with 4 football players invited to the NFL Combine. And we'll have to get Patrick. We'll drag Patrick Brett back in here and get his Combine thoughts coming up in the month of March. But you got Brandon Cisse going. And right now, Brandon Cisse has kind of worked his way into the top 20 of the NFL draft. Field Yates putting out his ESPN mock draft, predicting all 32 first-round spots today. This is from Field Yates, and he has got at number 18 to the Minnesota Vikings, Brandon Cisse. He says, this is Field Yates, Cisse is one of the most unique prospects in this class as he's a cornerback with uncommon strength and athletic ability. If he tests at the combine, get ready for a show. While a perimeter corner at his core, Cisse took occasional slot snaps at South Carolina. He was a force against the run from either alignment and can plaster perimeter wideouts in man coverage, staying physical and matching them stride for stride. He then goes on to say cornerback is a need for Minnesota. So keep an eye on that. He is moving himself up. And as I was saying earlier, if he goes to that combine and has a big combine, you could see Brandon Cisse continue to really work his way up the NFL draft and get inside the top 15 because of what you just read from Field Yates. Another guy that I'm really intrigued about from South Carolina going to the NFL Combine is Rasul Faison. Now, Jalen Kilgore is going and Nick Barrett are going. Good for them. Jalen Kilgore should have a good combine and get himself hopefully into the top 3 or 4 rounds. But Rasul Faison, at 25 years of age, probably is not a draftable prospect unless he just does something insane. The way they use running backs in the NFL now, dime a dozen. You can let him be a free agent, pick him up for minimum wage, basically use him up, get rid of him and discard him and go find the next running back to then use up. So the thing for Rasul Faison is, can he go to the combine and put on a performance that makes him a coveted free agent? Now, maybe somebody would take him in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, probably 6th or 7th at the latest. But I do wonder, because of how his eligibility played out last year, how much it affected who Rasul Faison was on the football field and what we really got to see. Now, as I said earlier, obviously the offensive line playing the way that they did had a huge impact on how well he played and what he could run for. But I do wonder, when you spend basically 9 months, which is even more ludicrous, it's even more ridiculous with the fact that tomorrow Trinidad Chambliss is having an eligibility hearing, and on Friday, Tennessee quarterback Joey Aguilar is having an eligibility hearing, and it took 9 months for them to get to the bottom of the Rasul Faison situation. Just, again, absolutely ridiculous. But you wonder how much it affected him mentally, how much it affected him physically in terms of South Carolina being able to get him ready and getting him the proper amount of snaps. I'll be interested to see if he can go to the combine and turn some heads, run a good 40 time, pump some weights, do really well in the interviews, do the things that's necessary that maybe make him stand out a little bit more. So I think that's a great opportunity for him and what he can do to maybe work his way up some draft charts. And then, as I mentioned, Jalen Kilgore, no surprise there. Jalen Kilgore, I think, will go and have a very good combine. He's just a football player. He's just an out-and-out football player, and I would expect him to go to the combine and do very, really well and be a guy that we see move up maybe into the top 3 rounds, 4th round, somewhere in there. And then good for Nick Barrett getting an opportunity as well to go to the NFL Combine and to showcase who he is and what he can do and maybe how he can improve a football team and maybe get a chance of being drafted. So we'll keep an eye on all that when combine time comes. But until now, we'll just discuss it. 803-404-6100. Speaking of discussing things, Trey Dyson, former Gamecock, joins us next. We're going to get his take on all things South Carolina baseball and hear what he's got to say. Hadn't caught up with him in a long time. What's he up to? What's he doing? And what's he think of South Carolina baseball? You're listening to The Halftime Show. Valentine's Day, it's coming. You please remember that, guys. I don't want any of y'all to be in a bad spot Sunday morning because you forgot Valentine's Day on Saturday night. Now, let me give you the gunner recommendation. Don't bother going out. That's right. You don't want to go deal with the hustle and bustle and the crowds and the reservations. Go to Old Timey Meat Market, get a delicious dinner, fix a great steak, some delicious chicken, maybe some awesome salmon. Fix her that incredible meal. Let me tell you, you will score exceptional points by you fixing dinner. And you don't have to tell her you went to Old Timey Meat Market. You'll just look like a genius because you did. Let me tell you, they have the absolute best cuts of steak, of pork, of chicken, incredible fish. They got oysters. You want to do oysters on Saturday night? Do a little oyster roast? Old Timey Meat Market's got oysters. Go visit one of their 3 locations and plan your Valentine's Saturday night now. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Stop by and tell them Bill Gunner sent you. The figure skating is back on. The guy just picked up the girl and flipped her over his shoulder. I don't get this. I get it. And he just did stuff like physically. People shouldn't do stuff like that on ice. I don't. This is what fascinates me about the Winter Olympics. Like, I get gymnastics. My daughter did it. My sister was in it when we were growing up. I had friends in it. I get gymnastics. I do. I've seen it. I've seen it with my own eyes. I don't get any of the Winter Olympics. Like, these sports are things that my simple mind can't comprehend. Maybe a guy who can understand the Winter Olympics, who understands all of it. Trey Dyson, who we have not heard from in a long time. Trey Dyson, how are you? Winter Olympics? Yes, no, thumbs up, thumbs down?
Of course. I love the Winter Olympics. I can't believe the take that you just gave on that. But I mean, the Olympics are just such an exciting time because they only happen 1 out of every 4 years, as you know. And some of the stuff they're doing on the skis. I'm not a huge figure skating guy, but the skiing stuff, I love the skiing stuff. And I do enjoy kind of watching the curling from time to time.
Yeah, no. What was you say you can't believe, what was the take that surprised you there on that?
That you're just not a winter sports guy.
Oh, no. I'm saying, like, obviously, and you're a local guy too. We didn't grow up down here going figure skating. That's what I'm saying. Like, the summer stuff, the swimming and diving and all that. Yeah, I'm familiar with. I jumped in Lake Murray. I've jumped in a pool. Like I said, I had relatives. My daughter did gymnastics. I had friends. Michael Hester was an incredible gymnastics girl at Lexington High School. I'm familiar with the Georgia team and the Alabama team. Like, I get gymnastics. All the summer stuff I kind of get. It's the winter stuff. Like, me on ice skates is an absolute. I've tried it down here at downtown before. It doesn't work at all. And that's what I mean. Like, it amazes me what they do. Even skiing. Me skiing. No, sir. Nope, not doing it.
Oh, wow. Well, I hear you. But I loved, just because it was such a rare thing, I loved whenever I had the chance to go skiing. It was a blast, man. I loved it.
Well, I've been, and I got to admit, I kind of prefer the bar and the hot tub area as opposed to the slopes. That's more my speed.
One thing I've been thinking about here with the curling is how much does the sweeping actually help? Like, I'd love to see some curling without the sweeping just so that we could see. Like, to me, that's just a psyop, Like, are they actually doing anything there? I don't think so.
Sounds like in the next few weeks we get together and we go over and we do some curling and we find out. I'm all for it. There's only one way to become an Olympian, and that's to start. No reason. Let's see. I'm 43 now. 47 is the next Winter Olympics. We can get it done. Well, let's talk some baseball. You were at the scrimmage yesterday, so you've had a chance to kind of take some action in. You're getting to see this team. I've talked about it, Trey. Obviously, shoot. It's a different age just from when you used to come on and talk baseball with us now with the transfer portal. And much like you, we're all trying to learn this baseball team. What are some things that have stood out to you?
Well, obviously the transfer portal is a huge deal in baseball nowadays. I think we've got maybe 27 new players this year. I might be wrong on that, but after a terrible year last year, winning only six games, Coach Maneri obviously wanted to kind of clear house there and recruit some of his own guys, and that's exactly what he's done. Now, being able for those guys to mesh together, we've got some super talented players, but it's just a matter of being able to mesh and with that short time period, without guys, loyal to South Carolina. I think it's going to be there's reason to be excited, but there's also, some reason to be skeptical. So we'll just see how they're able to come together. But from what I've seen, and I've only seen a couple scrimmages, but from what I've seen some talented players. I guess just time will tell whether or not they're going to be able to mesh together and be able to compete, at the highest level, which is the SEC.
One of the things that I read earlier from John Whittle is that South Carolina, in terms of adding players, and you kind of were talking about this with the portal in terms of adding guys, added the second most experienced team, essentially, in terms of experience added, only behind Georgia. For you in college baseball in the SEC, even if it's not with South Carolina, even if it's not in the SEC, how much is experience valued, do you think? Or is it just as simple as you're a good player, and you fit in the SEC? Is experience overrated?
No, I definitely do not think experience is overrated at all. So I like the old Kurt Signetti approach here. And I saw what John Whittle put out earlier today as well. I think that is certainly going to help us with the experience and the at-bats that a lot of these guys bring to the table. I think that's going to help us, and we certainly need it. Last year was terrible offensively, and we really only have one way to go but up. And I think bringing in those older guys are going to help us. Like I said, in the scrimmages, I think we only hit like 50-something home runs last year, which was it's just not going to cut it unless you're stealing a ton of bases, and I don't really see us stealing a ton of bases this year. So we're going to have tough at-bats in there. And I've seen some of that in the scrimmages, especially from guys like Bo Hollins and KJ Scobie. They've looked great in the box early on, very competitive. There's a guy from Western Kentucky we brought in, Lazama, I believe, that looked competitive in the box, and we've got a young player, Will Craddock, that looks. Those are kind of like the four guys that have caught my eye, and but when you take a look around the SEC, all the other teams in the SEC have guys exactly like that as well. So it takes way more than talent to win these games. I mean, you've got to have the players, but the players also have to be dogs when it comes to being competitive. And we did not have that last year. Hopefully, and Coach Maneri's second year, we will have that.
Being a former player, being a part of I don't want to say the building of this program. This program was being built prior to you arriving, but obviously you played a large role in getting it to where it became around 2010 to 2012. What is your expectation? We asked the question, a fair expectation for this baseball team this year. What is, in your opinion, fair expectation for Paul Maneri's second year and what we should expect from this team?
Well, you're talking to someone who has been on some really good teams as a player as well as a coach, where we don't take mediocrity as something that's acceptable.
Let me just say, I ask you that because you've been on good teams, so you can spot, you can be like, all right, that's a really good team. We should expect this, or it's maybe just getting to the postseason. That's why I ask you that, because you know what great baseball looks like.
Right. So I would say that from what my eyes have seen so far, and obviously losing Jake McCoy, I think it might be a tough year I think we can make a regional. And one thing I will say about our team from last year, okay, at least we won the games that we were supposed to win. We did a really good job of that. That's something that Coach Tanner always stressed to us, and which is one of the reasons why we had just amazing records at the end of the year. We played great in the SEC, but we also took care of the games that we were supposed to win. So, for example, we've got 3 games this upcoming weekend. These are 3 games that we should win. Northern Kentucky had a great year. They've got a good coach with a good track record there, but they lost some great players. These are 3 games absolutely we should win. And with how tough the SEC is, these are games that you're going to have to win if you want a chance to win at the postseason. But to directly answer your question, I think to me we should win the SEC championship every year as a former player and a former, lifelong Gamecock. I think that's something we can do because we've obviously done it in the past. But I think if we win 12 games in the SEC, which I'm obviously not, I would not be happy with that. But I think if we did that and could take care of business outside of the conference, I think we'd have a real good chance of making a regional.
Trey Dyson joining us this afternoon. He'll be part of our baseball coverage throughout the year, joining us as we watch this team evolve and see what they become. We learn, Trey will learn, you'll learn, all at the same time. Trey, how much is this league, and you went with Landon, you were up at North Greenville, and y'all had loads and loads of success. You're back here in Columbia now. How much has this league changed, do you think, just in the last 5 years? Just now you having a chance to kind of watch on TV and obviously being in the college game yourself, how much have you seen the SEC change?
Oh, I just think that every single team is has a chance to kind of almost win every year I think the players just as a whole have gotten better because they're training year round now. So the player pool is bigger. And then back when we played, if we lost to Vanderbilt or something like that, we would be embarrassed, Nowadays, Vanderbilt and Kentucky were probably some of the weaker teams back when I played. Now it's every weekend there is no sleeper with the exception of maybe Missouri. So I just think with the expansion of how good the player pool is at the moment, there are no gimmies when it comes to the SEC. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the SEC has won the past 5 national championships in baseball, and I don't really see that changing anytime soon. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but with the right group of guys, it can certainly be done. And that's what I don't know if we can expect it this year, but I'm certainly going to be rooting for them to, obviously mesh together. And we got to bring excitement back to Columbia, Bill, when it comes to baseball. And the only way to do that is to get out there, play hard, and win some games. So that's what they need to do if they want to get the excitement back in the program.
It is actually the last 6 years that the SEC has won the national championship, and that actually factors in. It's 6 out of the last 7 because there was not a College World Series during the COVID year. But Vanderbilt in 2019, Mississippi State, followed by Mississippi, LSU, Tennessee, back to LSU. So they have won. SEC has won the last 6. That's why I ask you what you see in the conference. Trey, we look forward to having you on throughout the season. You mentioned it. Got to get some excitement back. I know you're fully capable of doing that. We will have you in studio as well to get into it. But glad to have you back in town and look forward to talking some baseball with you this year.
Sounds great, Bill. Great to talk to you.
Great to talk to you. Trey Dyson, great Gamecock, great guy, back in town. And, yeah, I'm with him. And you heard him say the word excitement. I should have brought that back up with him because of the poll question from yesterday. Because this is always an exciting time of the year for Gamecock fans. Baseball is, say what you want, baseball is our sport. Baseball is what we are supposed to be really good at. We win national championships. We host regionals. We host super regionals. And it's not lived up to that standard. And you heard Trey say that. Look, you expect, as a former player, he expects them to win the SEC championship. And it's time that program get back to it over there and be that bell cow program and be up there with Dawn Staley and the women's basketball team, because that's who South Carolina as a college is. We are a baseball first school. We've been that way from Bobby Richardson to June Raines to Ray Tanner. This program is a proud program. And yes, it has fallen on hard times. Yes, it is not lived up to who it's supposed to be for the better part of the last decade. And that's got to change. And it's got to change starting this year. 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in if you want to do so this afternoon. We'll come back, get back into some other football notes. Trinidad Chambliss and Joey Aguilar, what's going on with them? I'll give you the breakdown. You're listening to the Halftime Show. Thank you again to the great Trey Dyson. We'll get his take throughout the year. He's back in town now, and I'll let him tell you more about what he's doing. You can hit him up on Twitter. I tagged him in the tweet at Trey Dyson, but he will be a part of our baseball coverage throughout the year as we try to see where this team goes. I mean, it's as someone who's from this town, who's grown up a Gamecock, and now has more of a vested interest in it. I don't know if there's ever been a more interesting time for South Carolina athletics because of the evolution of college sports and what we're seeing done with NIL and rev share and so forth and so on, and the price right now to keep up with the Joneses. The almighty dollar, it finally happened. It's taken over. And, we're seeing that in basketball. What is Jeremiah Donati going to do right now after back-to-back, at least at this point, incredible, awful seasons from Lamont Paris? Financially, no, nobody wants to shell out buyout money. I still contend I'm fine with the large buyouts. You'd rather that happen than Lamont Paris beat Ohio State, winning like gangbusters, and all of us are mad at Ray Tanner for not securing the bag, not securing Lamont Paris. Fine, it didn't work out. But that's part of college athletics now is the dollar. And, it's starting with basketball now. I'm watching this very intently. What is Jeremiah Donati going to do? And then it's going to be the same way with baseball. What in the world is this baseball team? Are they good? Are they competent? Are they competitive? As I was saying it going to break, this is a proud baseball program. There's fans that go to that ballpark that have been coming for 50 years that have seen great baseball. Not good baseball, great baseball. National championship level baseball. They know baseball. You know baseball. And where this program has been allowed to slide to is absolutely unacceptable. Unacceptable. And it's not a rebuild. And it wasn't a rebuild. They were in the regionals the year before Paul Maneri showed up. Dabo Sweeney said a long time ago when he took the Clemson job from Tommy Bowden, it's an oil change. And he made the oil change, and it took a little bit. The car got a little cranky on him. But then the oil change worked, and he got it going. And to me, that's what South Carolina baseball was. It was an oil change. It was going from Mark Kingston to Paul Maneri. And somewhere along the line last year, we forgot to put oil in the car. And now you're in a situation where you're playing in the absolute best conference in baseball. Hands down, no questions asked. I just read it off. I mean, this conference, we talk about football might have slipped. Basketball might not be what it was last year. Baseball still is. Baseball still is. Softball still is, by the way, too. So, there's no excuses. South Carolina doesn't get to be like, well, the conference is hard. We're trying our best. The conference is just hard. You don't get to do that. You're one of the bell cows of the conference. You're down now. You're not a bell cow now, but you're supposed to be. Your name is supposed to strike fear in the hearts of the teams that you go to, and it hasn't. It has not. And it's unacceptable. It's absolutely unacceptable. So it's a huge year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Get it back to where it's supposed to be. Become a winner again. Lord knows, from a radio standpoint, we would be appreciative of being able to talk about something to the end of June. I can promise you that. I can promise you. I can get my first 2 years ever doing radio in this town. South Carolina went to the College World Series, and I was like, oh, this is an easy job. You just talk sports from August until June, and then in July you take a few days off, and then it's SEC Media Day, and bang. Yeah, it's not how it works. That ain't how it works, buddy. But it's time for South Carolina baseball to reemerge. There is nothing. There is, we can talk about, well, football, yeah, you don't have the tradition in history. I don't know if you'll ever get the tradition in history in the recruiting of Georgia and Florida and Tennessee. Okay. Basketball, oh boy, the history. I don't know. I don't know about money for basketball. I don't know if we got enough NIL. There are no excuses for baseball. None. You got a nice park. Could be renovated a little bit, but it still works. It's nice. You're a name brand. You can still recruit if you got somebody who wants to do it. Monty Lee does a good job. You got a passionate fan base. You've got the money necessary in baseball. It's all there. It's all there. Just win the games. So, and Trey will be a part of us discussing that on a week in, week out basis as we go through the baseball season. 803-404-6100. I'll get to this, and then we'll wrap up the show. I mentioned this. I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, maybe last week actually. This guy on Twitter, SEC Mike, he puts out some content. He puts out some decent content, some content that Michael Bratton puts out content that kind of you go, I like that, or no, I don't agree with that. Either way, it gets you talking. And that's all this is. It gets you talking. Well, he has put out his 2026 1.0 SEC quarterback rankings. And I found this really kind of fascinating. His number one quarterback is not eligible. We'll know more tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Trinidad Chambliss. He has Trinidad Chambliss as the number one quarterback in the league. Number 2 on his list is Lenore Sellers. 3 is Gunnar Stockton. 4, Byron Brown, the South Florida transfer that followed Alex Golish over to Auburn and is the quarterback there now. 5 on his list is John Mateer. 6, because you still haven't heard the name, is Arch Manning. 7 is Sam Levitt. 8 is Marcel Reed. 9 is Joey Aguilar. He's dealing with his own situation in terms of eligibility. We'll find that out on Friday. 10 is Camario Taylor at Mississippi State. 11 is Austin Simmons at Missouri. 12 is Austin Mack at Alabama. 13 is KJ Jackson at Arkansas. 14 is Aaron Philo at Florida. That is his 14 right there that he's got on the list. Couple things. A, is Trinidad Chambliss, if he's eligible, is he the best quarterback in the league? At first I kind of glanced at it, and I was like, and then I kind of started looking at it, and I don't know. Is Trinidad Chambliss good because Trinidad Chambliss is good, or is Trinidad Chambliss good? I know he played great without Lane Kiffin in those 2 games, but was Trinidad Chambliss who he was because of Lane Kiffin? And it just kind of carried over to the bowl game. Would he be that way next year? Is Lenore Sellers the number 2 quarterback in the league? I don't think so. I'd have Stockton ahead of him. I'd have Mateer ahead of him. I'd have Manning ahead of him. I'd have Sam Levitt ahead of him. I'd have Sellers right there, kind of toe-to-toe with Marcel Reed. I'm not impressed with Marcel Reed, if you're wondering, by the way. I'm not a Marcel Reed guy. I'd have him down on my list. Down there at 8 seems perfectly fine with me. But I'm just looking at this list for discussion standpoint. Who is the top quarterback? Who would you go with as the top quarterback in the league? Let's remove Lenore Sellers from the discussion for a second. Take Lenore Sellers out. You get to pick the other quarterbacks in the league. You got all the SEC quarterbacks. Who would you take? 803-404-6100. Who would you take to be South Carolina's quarterback? Who do you think is the best quarterback in the league? You going Arch? Are you going Trinidad Chambliss? The guy that we thought we were going to get, Gunnar Stockton, would you take him? I'm not sure I wouldn't go Gunnar Stockton. I kind of thought about it. I'm not sure I wouldn't go with Gunnar Stockton ahead of Arch Manning. I'm interested to see how Sam Levitt does at LSU under Lane Kiffin. Remember, Levitt was really good 2 years ago for Arizona State when they got to the college football playoffs, and I'll be interested to see that. It is kind of Austin Mack at 12, the potential quarterback for Alabama. That's something at 12 in the league. Kind of gives you an idea. Alabama, as I said yesterday in our memorable moments, that loss to Indiana, that might have been it for the Crimson Tide. That dynasty, not that it did not end when Nick Saban retired, but I think it might have been put to bed in the Rose Bowl. And now you're kind of looking for a quarterback. By the way, to wrap up this segment and talking about Alabama and quarterbacks, Phil Yates has Ty Simpson going 21st in the NFL draft of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Am I the only one? Like, am I just being a hater in this segment? Am I being the world's grouchiest 43-year-old that I don't like Marcel Reed and that I don't think that Ty Simpson is a first-round draft pick? You can tell me I'm old and to go yell at clouds. There's plenty of them out there. It's a gloomy day out there. But I don't – Ty Simpson is a first-round – I feel like that's a stretch. I'm not buying it. 803-404-6100. We'll wrap up the show when we come back. It's the halftime show. Final segment of the program. We'll be back tomorrow. Doug Fireball Turnbull will be with us as we get set for our Checkered Flag Survivor Challenge. Yeah, it'll be a little different. It's going to be a little different. Tyler, give that boy credit. He has studied the champ. Now, Reggie Anderson's technically the GOAT there. He keeps winning, and so we moved on from Reggie. Kicked him out of the competition. But Tyler studied my antics, and this year for the Checkered Flag Challenge, we will be doing a survivor contest. 36 races, 36 drivers. You can only pick one driver per race. And what we'll do is then we'll have a scoring system. We'll have a scoring system kind of like we did on the former contest, and we'll kind of go from there. But, yeah, we've got a good little setup going. Doug Turnbull's incredible joining us, a lot of knowledge there. And we'll get you set for Daytona. It's going to be a fun weekend. Weather around here is going to be a little dicey after Friday, because Saturday afternoon and so forth and so on. But it's going to be a really good weekend. Looking forward to it. Reminder, we will be at Village Idiot from 9 until 12:40 on Friday, getting you ready for the start of the baseball season. Come on by, hang out. It'll be Tyler, Wes, Chris, Jack Veltri will be there. They're all going to be hanging out, discussing baseball, doing baseball things. I think one year Patrick Pratt and I were playing wiffle ball in the parking lot. So go by, hang out with them, and grab yourself a slice of pizza. I believe Village Idiot will open about 11 o'clock. So you can get over there, grab a slice, talk to the guys, and then make your way over to Founders Park for what actually should be a pretty nice day for a doubleheader. And we'll see what the baseball team looks like. Let's see what they look like. Let's see where they go from here. That's all we can do, and then we'll judge accordingly. But obviously, it's a big year as to what Pulmonary is going to do and what this team looks like. And I'm really interested. Riley Goodman, they've announced, by the way, earlier today, they put out on Twitter the weekend rotation. Not that we didn't already know this. Jamie Bradford had already kind of laid it out. But South Carolina earlier today putting out the rotation, and you know the way they did it. They put out a little graph or whatever. You get the point. They put out the little graph. But Riley Goodman will get the start to open the season on Friday in the 1 o'clock game. And from there, they're going to kind of go with about what was expected is Amp Phillips going game 2, and then Brandon Stone game 3. No shock there. It's just they put out their weekend rotation. That was 4 hours ago on Twitter, with Riley Goodman again going game 1, Amp Phillips going game 2, and Brandon Stone going game 3 for the Gamecocks. So we'll have all the coverage for you and get you ready for that. 803-40.
I have a question.
Yes.
Which Village Idiot are you going to be at?
Olympia. Good question.
Olympia.
That is a stump the bill question. Good one.
Thank you. Appreciate that. That's closest to the park.
That is close. Yes, you can walk straight over from it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can walk straight over and make it there. Dave, what's on the docket for you this? I know it's only Wednesday, but I'm trying to get you a stump the Dave question.
On the docket for me today.
Well, this weekend, baseball. Is it baseball? Is it Olympics? Is it Daytona 500, or is it just Larkin Poe music?
Well, Larkin Poe's coming to Greenville in March, so
there you go.
I got to prepare for that. So, it'll be my fifth concert with them, and I'm trying to get all my Greenville people to go. All the people from my hometown.
Now, what is widely considered Larkin Poe's best album?
Wow,
that's it. I'm reading. I've got an answer here.
Well, Blood Harmony before this won a Grammy.
Okay.
So we'll give it that. Bloom, though, their latest one was fantastic. It was nominated for a Grammy. So their latest 2 albums are just fantastic. Although, you've got Ken, you've got also several of their early stuff. I just love that stuff. So it's hard to say, but I think the last 2, Blood Harmony, probably is going to be it, if you consider the fact it won a Grammy.
All right, there you go. There's a little. He got it. He's according to the little Wikipedia thing I'm reading. Yes, Blood Harmony was the answer we were looking for. Very good. I knew that was an easy one. We're going to get you ramped back up for some since we're heading into the off season. A little bit of Stump the Dave there, and I'll make sure I have better questions.
Ask who their third sister is.
But see, you know that.
I do know that.
I got to ask you the tough questions.
Yeah.
Do you know how many guitars Tom Petty had?
Wow. No.
There's a roundabout number.
72.
Oh, no. You're tad off.
Tad off, okay.
Over 300.
Wow.
He estimated just a tad over 300
Yeah, that's
at the time of his passing.
sounds about right. I'd have that many if I could.
Of course you would. Of course you would.
Taylor Swift probably has twice that many, to be honest.
Does she play the guitar?
Yes.
I actually do not know that.
She has a guitar just like the one I got when I was 8 years old.
Electric? With fish strings?
It's an acoustic, a small acoustic guitar. And I also have a Taylor Swift guitar made by Taylor.
You weren't ready for that segment, were you, folks?
I wasn't, no.
You weren't. Dave wasn't. I wasn't. You weren't. Time to wrap it up. Get Tyler back in here tomorrow.
All right.
Keep things on. We'll do more Stump the Dave coming up here in the coming months. You're listening to 107.5 The Game. The Halftime Show. We're done.